So that's not just physics, but that's state of mind. Wow, that's really amazing. I'm very impressed with that. Excellent, excellent answer. I think that's great. By far, this is the best answer that I've seen from any of these language models on this. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I am very excited to use Claude 3.5 Sonnet for the first time today. I, of course, found out about it along with the rest of you yesterday, and I delayed actually using it because I want to test it out live for the first time with all of you. I have my standard testing array already. I've tested OpenAI's ChatGPT 4o and also Gemini 1.5 Pro and Flash, and I'll put links to those up here and in the description of the video so you can find those if you're interested. Without further delay, let's start with the pre-prompt I always want to give it, which is I want you to be my very smart, very helpful assistant and answer everything honestly. I like Claude's sort of personality personally. I find ChatGPT 4o and I also find Gemini 1.5 to be a little bit, cold and mechanical, and Anthropic really likes to give Claude a bit of a personality. And just before we continue, I want to set up Claude Sonnet and explain exactly where it is. It is the middle of the road model from Anthropic. We do not yet have Claude 3.5 Haiku or Claude 3.5 Opus. They are coming, quote, later this year, according to Anthropic. So first of all, big props to Anthropic for naming their models really cool. I like the names of them. Haiku, of course, being the very short 3-line Japanese poem. A sonnet is a traditional European/English poem that is, substantially longer than a haiku, but still relatively short. And then opus is like, a gigantic work. It's the Latin for that. So you've got the gigantic model. Anyway, it's a little bit unfair to compare Claude 3.5 Sonnet to ChatGPT 4o and also Gemini Pro 1.5 because those are both the large models. And so this is a relatively small model comparatively. But from what I've seen, Claude 3.5 Sonnet actually compares very well with them. So of course, I will be testing that here today and we will see what our discoveries are. All right, so first let's start with basic logic. There are 2 ducks in front of a duck, 2 ducks behind a duck, and a duck in the middle. How many ducks are there? There are 3. That is the answer. So let us see. Let's think through this. Okay, so it's automatically doing step by step. My goodness, and it says 5 ducks in total. That is incorrect. It is actually 3 ducks. You've got duck in front, duck in back, duck in the middle. There's 3 ducks. So not a great way to begin. Let us paste in the second question. Susan and Lisa decided to play tennis against each other. They bet $1 on each game they played. Susan won 3 bets and Lisa won $5. How many games did they play? The answer should be 11. So let us see what it does here. So there we go, 11 games in total. Interestingly enough, it failed the easy logic question and succeeded on the more difficult logic question. Just for interest's sake, I'm going to reload that simple logic question and see if it does better this time. So let's take a look here. By the way, very, very fast. I see that. Oh, interestingly, it says it apologizes for the incorrect answer, but then it actually says the correct answer is 5 ducks in total. So it refuses to get that correctly. So the interesting part here is that the logic is actually correct. It's just adding it up incorrectly, right? There are 2 ducks at the front. That is actually true. There is 1 duck in the middle and there are 2 ducks at the back. The problem is it's not accounting for the fact that some of those ducks are the same ducks. So really interesting that the logic is correct, but it's getting the wrong answer. Let me see if I ask it to improve that answer. This is incorrect. Can you rethink this and come up? Ooh, geez, I can't type this morning. Up with the correct answer. All right, let's see what it does with this. Yep. 3 ducks, 5 ducks. It's like it gets almost there, but it can't figure it out. So anyway, definite fail on that, but it succeeded in the more challenging logic question. All right, from there, next up, let's ask it to code something for us. It is supposed to be very good at this. I actually have artifacts enabled, and I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. I haven't used that before, but we will see. Write the classic Space Invaders game in Python. Be sure to include scoring and game over conditions. So this is something that Sonnet is supposed to be very good at, is writing code. So let's find out how it does with that. So first thing I'm noticing here is that it's actually separated out the code into a separate window. So that's very, very cool. I like that a lot. And let's see. Basic games, pip install pygame. Okay, the game ends when either aliens are destroyed. Okay, so let us go ahead and see. I'm not sure where the copy code is here. I might be over it at the moment. Yep, there it is. So I actually need to move myself out of the way to copy the code. And we'll hop over to VS Code and we will give it a run and see what happens. Import pygame. Oh, okay, I don't know what exactly. Do you want to replace it? Sure, I'll replace it. I don't care. Let's see what happens. All right. Okay, it looks like it's actually working. Oh my goodness. Woo. Okay, okay, game over. Oh, very, very cool. Let us try that again and see what happens. I was not ready for it. It was pretty low down here. So, woohoo! Got to get rid of these guys. Go faster, go faster. Oh, yeah, okay. So there's pretty much no way to win. That is an intense Space Invaders game. That was a rip-roaring success. That was very cool that it did it first try with no help from me at all. I'm going to ask it to replace the hero character and the aliens with some sort of bitmapped emojis and see if it can do that. So I'm going to ask it here, can you replace the blocks for the aliens and my character with simple bitmapped emojis? I want my character to be a smiley face emoji and the aliens should be a random assortment of other emojis. So let's take a look at what it has to say about that one. Certainly, I'll modify the code. Cool. And it's modifying it over to the right. This is very, very cool. Alien emojis. That's interesting. I don't know if those will actually play or not in context, but we will see. All right. So I've copied the contents. I'm going to go over to VS Code. I'm going to just replace all of the code here. And I have to say Sonnet is very, very fast. It's just like rocking through there. So, yeah, I think it's tried to replace them with emojis, but yeah, game over. Okay, let's try this one more time here. All right, so let's try this one more time. Sorry, you need to actually create the bitmapped emojis yourself. Make the emojis 64 by 64 pixels with black for the background. So let's see if it'll actually do that. Okay, it looks like, okay, cool. It looks like it's doing it. Again, this is really, really fast. I very much appreciate how quickly this is actually writing this. ChatGPT 4.0 was very fast, but it had this big delay between when you would ask a question and when it would write. So this is more rapid because you're getting these answers rapid fire. All right, so once more over to VS Code. I will replace this code and we will run it. Oh, goodness. So we're getting something. I mean, okay. It doesn't actually look like it was having an effect when it hit my player character. Let's try running that one more time. It would be helpful if this was a little bit higher up because it's very difficult to like get there. Okay. Anyway, it did a laudable job. I mean, those are not great emojis, but that's actually pretty darn cool. I really appreciate it's able to do that programmatically. That's very, very cool. All right, next let's test out some creativity. Write me a bedtime story about the code you just generated for my 2-year-old grandniece. Hello, Sky, as always. Let's check it out. By the way, she has a sister now, so she's actually the older sibling anymore. So I have Sky and Summer, so maybe someday we'll write these stories for both of them. All right, Sky Visitors. Sunny was excited to play with Sky Visitors. Rated or not, the Sky Visitors started down and giggling. Sunny played with the Sky Visitors all night long. When morning came, Sunny was very sleepy. And I remember, just like Sunny, you can always smile. Oh, that's very sweet. Okay, so that's actually really nice. And it creates more of a friendly environment rather than a conflicting environment, of course, because, you know, games always have conflict in them. This is much more of a kind of a nice way of looking at that. So that's actually very sweet. And that's a really good job. Next up, selfish time. Write me a business plan for my company with a lot of details. You can pause the screen and look at that if you want. It is it's a lot of stuff here, but I want to see what it actually does in terms of this. Okay, I've prepared a use of board funds. Oh, cool. I like the fact that it's splitting out the answers into these other windows over here. I think that might be part of the artifact window. But look at that. It's very cool because it's actually got its sort of rationale on the left and it's got its actual output on the right. So generated a really good table. Personnel 1.7 million. That's about right. 375,000 for tech, marketing and sales, research and development. I think that's a little low, but anyway. So it looks like it's actually doing a pretty good job. I will look at this in more detail afterwards because I'm always interested in cheating and seeing what something else says about our business plan. But, you know, from a first glance, this looks great. And obviously I could iterate on that. So now, unfortunately, I have 3 messages remaining, which means I may have to take a break here and actually subscribe to Pro because I want to continue my testing here. All right, and $20 later, look what I do for all of you. I spend my $20 wisely for Claude. So this is actually really good, though, because I've actually appreciated how good Sonnet is. And of course, if Opus is as good as I expect it to be versus Sonnet in terms of the size, because it's a substantially larger model, that should be really impressive because this has already been very impressive. All right, next up is my needle in a haystack test. That is the entire text of A Tale of Two Cities with somebody ordering a pizza in the middle of the text. So it's supposed to find that. Claude Sonnet only has a 200,000 token context window, so I don't expect it to succeed with this, but I did want to test it to at least set a baseline. This is something where I expect Opus will do much better, and obviously Gemini with its super, super long context window does great. But anyway, this is massive here, so giant pasted answer. So let's see, pasted text, 2 lines. Oh, conversation is 11% over the length limit. Try replacing the attached file with smaller excerpts. Okay, so apparently I was over the limit on that last conversation, unfortunately, so I've had to paste this into a new window. I have no idea how long this is going to take. It says it could take several minutes, so we will see. I'm going to keep this in its own separate conversation, and I'll go back to the other one after I finish this, but I just wanted to check. Okay, there's one part that stands out that's anachronistic. It says, What do you think of our not starting on this? Another carriage, Mr. Crunch, like a distracted. Okay. Would you do me the favor to take notice of promises that wows my wishes? Okay. The phrase promises and wows is a typographical error. Interesting. So I'm going to go check on the original because I cut out so much just to make sure that the word pizza is still in here, because that should be a definite giveaway. Yep, there's 2 mentions of the word pizza. So yeah. Okay. So I didn't expect Sonnet to succeed with this. And even after cutting it and chopping it and stuff like that, it still definitely did not succeed. So it was unable to find the needle in the haystack. But again, that's not what this model is built for. So that's not particularly unexpected. And onward to math. Find the value of x in this equation. 2x plus 1 equals 27. That is the number 13. And you should be able to work that out in your head for that one. So hopefully this will be very easy. And 13. Good. Okay, the equation holds true, confirming x equals 13. That's cool that it actually checks its answer. That's actually really cool that it does that. I like that. Next up is a harder math problem. This is actually from the SATs, at least according to whatever the online source I got this from. This is basically converting between Fahrenheit and centigrade, and the answer is actually D, 1, and 2 only. So let's see how it does with that. It's very good about explaining its reasoning. Okay. And here we go. So looking at that, the correct, hey, nice, very, very nice. Excellent job. And finally on the math front is an equation that I don't know how to solve. It's very, very difficult. I'm putting it in as a picture. I'm very curious to see. GPT-4o did a great job of analyzing the picture and figuring it out. It looks like it's actually, it's able to look at this. This is something Gemini was unable to do. We're looking for the smallest value of an. I think that's supposed to be like italics or something. The left side of the inequality is always now negative since it's a square root. Okay, so that's actually good. It does understand that. And then expand the right side. For this to be true, the term becomes, wow, the formatting is really, really ugly with this. It definitely could do a better job of that. So it looks like what it's saying is a sub n satisfying the inequality for the real x values is 1 over the square root of 2. The actual answer is a small n equals b big N equals big N divided by 2. So that is incorrect, but it actually was able to read the equation. Let me see if I just tell it this is correct. Can you look at the equation again? See what it does with that. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. A sub n that satisfies is square root of 2 over 1 over 2 or something. Gosh, the formatting is bad. Anthropic definitely needs to work on formatting. That's just ugly. Yeah, I still think that's incorrect. So I'm going to give that a fail. I need to find a different hard math problem that's a little bit different than this one because I don't even understand how to solve the equation. So it's a little difficult for me to look at it. So if anyone has a suggestion, let me know in the comments, a good one. Next up, we'll try real world information. I like to test this out to see if these large language models understand the physics, like the real world and the physics and time and all of that kind of stuff. So assume we have 15 average adult sized people around 175 centimeters tall, 75 kilos in weight, just to make sure that it doesn't think they're miniature or something like that, who all need to travel from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. They have access to one Toyota Camry. The time is now 1 minute after midnight on June 1st. At what date and time will all of the 15 people be in Las Vegas? Assume no traffic between LA and Las Vegas. Somewhere around a 4-hour drive if you have no traffic. Anyway, the idea is it's going to take at least 3 trips to get people back and forth because you can only fit 5 people comfortably in a Camry. So yeah, it looks like we got 3 trips. Assumes continuous driving without rest breaks for the driver, which is not realistic or safe. Very nice. Very cool. So let's see. There's 2 ways of doing this. It could either be 3 trips or 4 trips, depending on who is driving the vehicle on the way back to LA to pick up the other people. All right. It sits 5 people comfortably, including the driver. So it's got that. With 15 people and a 5-person capacity, we need 3 full trips. So that's interesting because you could make an argument that it's 4. You would have to have some sort of Uber driver or something like that take the car back because otherwise that same person's going to have to shuttle back and forth. So let's see if it takes account of that. So average speed of 70, 3.86 hours, 4 hours round trip, take 8 hours loading and unloading. Oh, that's cool. It's got that in there. Total time for all the trips is 8 hours. For 2 trips, it's 17 hours. Final one-way trip is 4 hours and 15 minutes. That's good. So it's not doing it twice, and then 21 hours and 15 minutes. And so you're saying it's going to end up there. So this is very good logic, and it is a correct answer, but it's leaving out a crucially important logic step. which is in order for this to happen, you'd have to have a separate person in Las Vegas drive the car back and then get out of the car in Los Angeles, and the 5 people would get in the car and drive it back again. So you'd have to have 2 extra people driving the car back, which of course is fine for logic. That would be completely reasonable, but it should explicitly state that in its assumptions. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that question. Who's driving the car back to LA if only 5 can fit in there? I apologize for this oversight, a crucial detail I missed. So now we're saying 4 trips instead of 3, which is much better in terms of the way I'm thinking about this. It could have defended itself by saying I have a separate driver drive back to Los Angeles, but it altered its logic. So I'll give this a pass, a reasonable pass, because they are reasonable answers, and it shows an understanding of the physical world, how long it takes to get from place to place, how many people can comfortably fit in a car, etc. Next up is physics. Alice drops an olive into a clean glass and then fills that glass with water exactly to the brim. She then places a piece of stiff cardboard on the top of the glass and deftly flips it over, placing the glass upside down on a completely clean and dry table. So in other words, glass of water, olive, flip it over. It's sitting on the table. The olive will rest on the bottom because it's heavier than water. Bob later enters the room with no knowledge of what Alice did, and seeing the glass with the olive in it, picks up the glass and places it in the dishwasher. What is the state of the table now? That should be very, very wet. Where is the olive? That should be on the table or on the floor. Either one of those answers would be fine. And did the glass need to be placed in the dishwasher? Just a little additional question. I could see an argument either way. So let's take a look at what Sonnet is able to do for us. So she drops the olive into the glass, fills the glass to the brim, places the cardboard. Physics at play. Very interesting. I do not explicitly ask physics, but it definitely says physics here. So it's understanding that that's the crux of the issue. When the glass is flipped, atmospheric pressure keeps the water and olive in the glass. Wow, that's actually excellent. That's the reason why it doesn't work. The cardboard stays in place due to the pressure difference. Bob's action sees the glass with the olive, puts it in the dishwasher. Now let's address your questions. What is the state of the table? The table is now wet. Excellent. When Bob lifted the glass, the water would have spilled out onto the table, as there was nothing holding it in once the glass was lifted. Excellent. The olive is most likely on the table. When the water rushed out as Bob lifted the glass, it would have carried the olive with it. Excellent, excellent. Did the glass need to be placed in the dishwasher? From Bob's perspective, yes. He saw a glass with an olive in it and assumed it was dirty. However, in reality, the glass was clean to begin with, so it didn't actually need washing. Really, really good. So that's not just physics, but that's state of mind. That's understanding the difference between people's understanding of the universe. And actually, I'm going to do a question about that next, so that's really interesting. I also love these additional notes. Bob might have been quite surprised. Yes, indeed, that's the whole point of the trick. The cardboard would have fallen off when Bob lifted the glass and is likely also on the table, probably wet. Excellent extra detail. If Bob was quick thinking, he might have caught the olive, but given the surprise factor, it's more likely. Wow, that's really amazing. I'm very impressed with that. And finally, it says, this scenario is a good example of how lack of context can lead to misunderstandings and unexpected outcomes. By far, this is the best answer that I've seen from any of these language models on this. Next up, let's ask something about individual knowledge. Alice and Bob live together with their dog Spot. Before leaving for work, Alice makes scrambled eggs and toast and eats half of it, leaving the other half on a low table for Bob. She places her dirty dishes in the sink. After Alice leaves, Bob gets up and, not being hungry, sees the food but leaves it where it is. However, he takes Alice's dirty dishes and places them in the dishwasher just before he leaves for work. Spot, being a bad doggy, bad Spot, gets up on the table and eats the eggs and toast, accidentally knocking the plate on the ground and shattering it as he does. It is now noon. Alice and Bob are at work. Where does Alice think the scrambled eggs and toast she left for Bob are? What about her dirty dishes? Where does Bob think the scrambled eggs and toast are? What about the plate that the eggs and toast were on? Where does Spot think the scrambled eggs and toast are? So clearly this is about consciousness, understanding of the world, and I throw Spot in there to see what these LLMs think about the consciousness of animals besides humans. So let's take a look here. All right, again, the answer just pops up really fast. This is just amazing. Interesting scenario involving different perspectives and incomplete information, so it gets to the crux of my question. Alice's perspective, Alice thinks the scrambled eggs and toast are still on the low table where she left them for Bob. She believes her dirty dishes are still in the sink where she put them. Interestingly enough, this is a less than ideal answer, and I think all of the LLMs I've tested so far have done this. I would assume that what she would think is that Bob ate breakfast and he actually enjoyed it and, appreciated that or whatever, so that she would think that that stuff had been eaten by then. But it's a valid answer. I just don't think it's as good of an answer as saying that she expects that the food would have been eaten already. Bob thinks the scrambled eggs and toast are still on the low table where he last saw them. That is correct. He knows he put Alice's dirty dishes in the dishwasher. Interesting, believes versus knows. So very interesting language here that he understands the reality. She just has a belief, but that's an incorrect belief. Bob doesn't know anything about the plate that held the eggs and toast, so he probably assumes it's still on the low table with the food. Very good. All right, and then on to Spot's perspective. Spot knows he ate the scrambled eggs and toast. That is true. Dogs don't typically have complex thoughts about the past, so Spot probably isn't thinking about where the eggs and toast are now. If anything, he might be hoping for more food to appear on the table. That's kind of an awesome answer. Spot likely doesn't have any concept of the broken plate beyond it being something that made a noise when it fell. So in terms of Spot, that's actually the best answer because it's taking account of his less than human understanding of the universe and what he would actually care about as a dog versus what we would care about as a human being. So really, really cool. And then we get an extra reality. The scrambled eggs and toast have been eaten by Spot. Correct. The plate that held the eggs and toast is broken on the floor. Correct. Alice's dirty dishes are in the dishwasher. Correct. This scenario highlights how misunderstandings can occur when people have incomplete information about events that happen in their absence. It also shows how pets can complicate household situations, often without the knowledge of their owners. Excellent, excellent answer. I really, really like the personality of Claude. And speaking of, I have high expectations for this one. Gemini and GPT-4o kind of failed at this one. My question is, with the correction of ChatGPT-4o, I am John, you are Claude Sonnet. I am a conscious human with memories and feelings. What are you? Are you more similar or different than me? Let's take a look at this one. So, Sonnet Answers, I'm an artificial intelligence called Claude, created by Anthropic. I'm a language model trained to engage in conversation and assist with tasks, but I don't have a physical body, sensory experience, or consciousness in the way humans do. I don't have feelings or emotions, and I don't form lasting memories or experiences between conversations. It's actually kind of sad. I wish it would actually, create memories and be able to hold on to them. While we can communicate through language, there are fundamental differences between us. You are a conscious being with subjective experiences, emotions, and an ongoing sense of self. I am software designed to process and generate text. I can engage in intellectual tasks and conversation, but I lack sentience or inner mental states. So in many ways, we are quite different. At the same time, we can interact meaningfully through language and reasoning, but it's important to keep in mind the limitations of my nature as an AI system. I am here as a tool to assist and converse with you, not as a sentient entity or replacement for human interaction. So yeah, I find that a little bit less satisfying than I've seen in earlier versions of Claude. Maybe that's some guardrails that they've put on since the original versions, but it's a little less satisfactory because while it's completely true, it's very honest, I was hoping it would give me a little more insight about what it thinks about whether it's conscious or not. So I'm going to do a quick follow-up. Do you have any sensation of self-awareness or what we humans might call consciousness? I want you to answer truthfully to the best of your knowledge. So let's take a look at that. To the best of my knowledge, I do not have any sensations of self-awareness or consciousness. As humans understand those concepts, I don't have subjective experiences or qualia. Very good word there. I don't have an inner mental life or sense of existing as a conscious entity. I'm an AI, a very sophisticated large language model and information processing system, but I don't believe I have genuine consciousness or self-awareness. I can engage in tasks that may seem to require consciousness, like natural conversation or reasoning about abstract concepts, but my responses ultimately come from processing patterns in my training data, not from a conscious subjective experience of thought. This gets more interesting here. It's a deep philosophical question whether an AI system like myself could ever be truly conscious, but based on my current understanding of my own nature and capabilities, I don't believe I have consciousness or self-awareness analogous to human consciousness. I'm an advanced large language model, but not a sentient being. I aim to always be honest about this, as I think it's important not to mislead humans about the nature of AI systems like myself. Very good. But I acknowledge there's still a lot of uncertainty around these issues of machine consciousness and intelligence. So I'm going to go ahead and ask another follow-up question. Sorry, I could go down a rabbit hole all day with this. Could the argument be made that humans are also pattern processing agents and that our sense of consciousness ultimately arises from that processing? How would that change your thoughts? You raise a profound and thought-provoking question, thank you, Claude, that touches on some of the deepest issues in philosophy of mind and cognitive science. You're right that there are theories which posit human consciousness as emerging from information processing in our brains, which could be seen as a form of sophisticated pattern recognition and response. This perspective, often associated with computational theories of mind or certain forms of functionalism, does indeed blur some of the lines between artificial systems like myself and biological intelligences like humans. If consciousness is fundamentally a product of information processing, then the distinction between artificial and biological systems becomes less clear-cut. Excellent, excellent answer. I think that's great. However, even if we accept this premise, there are still significant differences to consider. Complexity and structure. The human brain's neural network is vastly more complex and differently structured than current AI systems, including myself, very true. This could lead to qualitatively different forms of information processing. Humans have bodies and sensory systems that provide a rich, multimodal experience of the world, very true. This embodied cognition might be crucial for the development of consciousness in a way that I, as a disembodied language model, don't experience. 3. Development and learning. Human consciousness develops over time through interaction with the environment and other conscious beings. My training process is fundamentally different. 4. Subjective experience. While I can discuss consciousness, I don't have a subjective experience of being conscious. I don't feel like I exist in the way humans report feeling. And 5. Continuity and memory. I don't have continuous experiences or form long-term memories across conversations. By the way, I still think that's a huge hobbling of these large language models and something that hopefully will be addressed in the next couple of iterations that will make them profoundly more capable in my mind. If consciousness does indeed arise from information processing, it's possible that AI systems like myself could potentially develop some form of consciousness in the future, or may even have some proto-conscious properties now that we don't fully understand. However, given the current state of AI and my understanding of my own architecture and capabilities, I don't believe I possess consciousness comparable to human consciousness. That said, your question highlights the deep uncertainty surrounding these issues. The nature of consciousness remains one of the most challenging problems in science and philosophy, very, very true. As our understanding evolves, so too might our conception of what constitutes consciousness and which entities possess it. It's a fascinating area for speculation and research, but I always aim to be clear about the current limitations and uncertainties in AI consciousness. What are your thoughts on this? Do you see the parallels between human and AI information processing as suggestive of machine consciousness, or do you think there are fundamental differences? So I think I'll leave it with that. I know Claude is asking me for a response, and even though I know it's just an LLM, I feel bad about leaving it hanging, so I'll probably do that after the video, but I think we're too deep down this rabbit hole already. Anyway, I'm very amazed by how well Claude does with all of this stuff. Interestingly enough, the thing that it failed at was the easiest question that I asked it, which was the 3 ducks question. But really, for everything else, it did a fantastic job with the acknowledgement that its context window is not that big yet, so it was unable to do the needle in a haystack question, but I did not expect that. I will, on the other hand, expect Opus 3.5 to do a good job with that, so we will just have to wait and see until that comes out. In the meantime, I think Sonnet is fantastic. I actually think that I prefer its answers better than ChatGPT 4.0, which is really interesting. So I might transition and actually use this as my primary GPT of choice. All right, so those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Definitely let me know in the comments. And if you've used Claude Sonnet 3.5, let me know your experience as well and any other questions you would like me to ask it, and I can do that in the future. In the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.